This is the Alien Podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're back for the finale of Alien Earth with Episode 8, The Real Monsters.
No one's going to give a 6-year-old his own empire, so I just made myself a figurehead.
You killed your father.
No, the point isn't who killed who. The point is I'm running a multi-trillion-dollar business, and that's before people find out they can be immortal for a low, low price.
We don't belong to you.
Of course. You do, sweeties.
You're floor models.
Welcome back, fellow lost boys and girls. This is TV Podcast Industries. We're back for the finale of Alien Earth, The Real Monsters. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Yes, hello there, and welcome back, fellow aliens. I am one of your other hosts, John.
Has everyone been turned into an alien now, John?
No, well, I've been calling them fellow aliens and fellow lost boys.
That's true, true, yes. And I've just been calling them lost boys and girls.
Yes.
Yeah. That's just because of the boys, because we're covering Gen V at the moment as well. So I was calling it boys and girls from there, and now it's lost boys and girls. You see, that's the connection there.
It is.
You know, since we're doing both shows at the same time, it makes it easier for me to remember, to be completely honest.
Absolutely. And if you haven't got your fill of blood from Alien Earth, then head on over to our Gen V podcast.
Yes.
Where there is plenty of blood, and in fact, one of the main characters is a blood bender.
She is, yeah. And also, we do have a sacrificial goat on Gen V, and here we have the sacrificial lamb, I guess.
Yeah.
over here. So
spectacles, testicles, what?
Oh, yes. Sacrificial. But we are going to discuss the final episode of Alien Earth, which I think we can now be convinced the aim was to set up for season 2, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed this episode, but I have to say, it felt like a curveball as to what it did. I was not expecting, kind of just the ending. Yeah. I'm absolutely convinced, okay, it's set up for a season 2. Literally most of the protagonists are alive. Indeed, one of them has, quote, come back to life, in a sense, and we'll get to that during our conversation.
Oh, we will, yeah. Sorry.
But I do, it wasn't what I was expecting. I know the alien tore through all the security staff, and it's not that there wasn't any sort of, that horror or violence, but it was not really directed at the main contingent like I thought it would be. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they've kept a lot of people alive that have been main characters for the season
Which
so
is
far.
Great.
But I must say that I've been seeing, as you do at the end of any season, I've been seeing lots of criticism of the show, and lots of people saying it didn't give us any answers. It just led up to a season 2, so the whole series was a waste. I'm going, no, that's a television show. It did give us loads of answers for the things that we've been invested in for the season so far, and set up a second season of a great TV show. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm really excited. I hope we get confirmation of that pretty soon. FX usually aren't slow at announcing second seasons and follow-ups to their shows. We covered Shogun recently, which did get a sequel to the first season, which was based in a book, and the second season won't be based in a book. So FX believe in you, and you've had the right ratings. They're likely going to come back with another season. I know Hawley's done multiple season shows with them in the past. So I know when he was on the official podcast, he said the intention here is multiple seasons if he can get it over the line, but he wants to ensure that everybody's happy with the first season to begin with. So, yeah.
Excellent stuff.
There you go. But just a reminder to those of you who haven't subscribed to the podcast, you can pop over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com to subscribe to the podcast on any player of your choice. There's a really easy way to subscribe now when you get over to the website. I've fixed it up a bit, which I hadn't done for a while, so go check that out over there. You can still send in your feedback to us for Alien Earth. You can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. If you're listening along at a later stage or just want to let us know what you thought of the podcast or of the episodes, email us over there, or join us on our Facebook group and chat to us there at facebook.com/groups/TV podcast industries. And we hope to hear from you about some of the other shows that we're covering.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been really good getting your thoughts on this season of Alien Earth. Certainly for me, who felt that this was a little different than what I was expecting in terms of the final episode. I've absolutely loved all the episodes of this show, and I'm really pleased that there's a lot of the original cast there because they worked so well.
Absolutely.
And I think, yes, it would have been nice to see Boy Kavalier get his comeuppance and so on, but equally, he's not in a good place. And I think, Season 2, absolutely bring it on, because I'd love to see how it progresses on. Is it going to go straight from there, or will it sort of have a time jump of some description? Yeah. Because I think there's really, I think Noah Hawley's played around really well in this sandbox and has come up with something fresh, not just in terms of looking at the synths, the hybrids, the cyborgs, but in terms of looking at the xenomorph and, I guess, the cluster of other aliens as well. So it was really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there was actually a time jump in this episode, wasn't there, from last week's episode. It didn't take place immediately after last week's cliffhanger of an ending. So we'll talk about all of that when we get into our discussion about the episode.
Indeed. Derek, take us away with who gave us what, where, when, and how.
Well, for the final time this season, the show is based on characters created by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett with H.R. Geiger. The showrunner for the show is Noah Hawley, and the episode was written once again by Noah Hawley, this time with Migizi Pensoneou. Migizi was an actor, writer, and producer on Reservation Dogs. John, I know you're a big fan of Reservation Dogs.
Oh, absolutely. Really enjoyed that first season. I think there's... need to get into the other seasons. It's more time than anything, because I absolutely loved the first season of Reservation Dogs. It's kind of my non-podcast treat, in a sense, a bit like Snowfall was and so on. I mean, absolutely would love to have podcast on them, but there's only so many hours in a day.
Exactly, and we have enough shows that we're podcasting on that we can't get around to podcasting on. So let's not add another one, but definitely well worth watching Reservation Dogs. The episode directed once again by Dana Gonzales, closing out his run on this season, all the episodes that he directed as well.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Yeah.
John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for Alien Earth finale, The Real Monsters?
Sure. The hybrids have been imprisoned in one cell, with Joe and Morrow imprisoned in another. With external communication severed by Morrow, Boy Kavalier is trying to restore control to the island. But Wendy uses her abilities to interface with technology to start shutting down the facility's cameras and internal communications, turning the Neverland facility into a haunted house and plunging it into even more chaos. She struggles with her brother Joe's decision to shoot Nibs, believing he chose to ally himself with humans instead of her, but ultimately unlocks his cell, allowing him and Morrow to escape. Boy Kavalier approaches the hybrids, believing them to be under control, and reveals that at 6 years old he built his own synthetic, which he used to kill his abusive father. Wendy unlocks their cell, Nibs kills Kavalier's bodyguard, and Boy Kavalier flees, beginning a game of hide-and-seek with the hybrids in pursuit. Meanwhile, after escaping their cell, Morrow sneaks up to Kirsch in the lab and attacks him. Kirsch is badly damaged, but ultimately chokes Morrow unconscious. Smears slightly arrive in the lab, and they incapacitate both Kirsch and Morrow, while Nibs captures Dame Sylvia. Meanwhile, Atom Ines lures Joe to Kavalier's room and locks him in with the T-Oculus, in a plan to deliver a communicative version of the creature to Boy K. But Wendy arrives to save Joe and fights Atom Ines, who reveals himself as a synthetic. Using her abilities, Wendy is able to control his motor functions and stop his attack in its tracks. During the battle, the T-Oculus escapes to the beach, where it possesses Arthur Sylvia's corpse. With the help of the older xenomorph, Wendy and Joe capture Boy Kavalier and lock him in a cell with the rest of the grown-ups. Wendy reaches the realization that Boy K might pretend to be a child, but he is an adult who has chosen to hate the rest of the world, just like his father before him. As Yutani and her team approach the island, Wendy, with both xenomorphs nearby, declares to her hybrid brethren, "Now we rule."
And they do rule in this episode, don't they? No, I thought this episode was really, really good. I love that as the closing line. And yeah, just getting into that, another Pearl Jam song, I think, closes out this episode. Another rock song, when they're basically ready to take over the world now. You know, they've achieved their plan and ready to go. It's cool.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it's a nice power dynamic switch that happens here. And I mean, it's quite comprehensive, really, with the skills that Wendy possesses. Those upgrades, I guess, that Boy Kavalier gave to her, as opposed to the other hybrids. And he didn't really think that they would come to ultimately help with his downfall. So it was kind of quite nice, that, for sure.
Absolutely. I mentioned at the beginning that there was a bit of a jump between last week's episode. Last week we had the standoff between Wendy and Nibs and Joe, effectively Joe taking out Nibs. We thought maybe the Xeno would come in and take out the attackers, and it would continue the battle and they'd escape effectively. But this takes a time jump, and we start out with all of the hybrids now in one cell.
Yes. All of them it's basically cells. And you have the remaining 5 hybrids in a cell, and you have Morrow and Joe in another cell.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of really interesting, this, because I like the way Wendy kind of comes to the realization and goes, and there's quite a sort of deep conversation going on between them, because Wendy and Nibs are saying how they've passed their graves. And you have slightly saying how Isaac's actual real name, it wasn't Isaac, although that's the name he chose. It certainly wasn't Tootles. It was Stephen, and that he was called Steve-O. Yeah. So you're having this conversation, and Nibs kind of comes, we're just ghosts. And it's that moment where Wendy kind of realizes, well, what do ghosts do? They haunt houses. Exactly. And realizes that despite being behind bars, she's able to interface with the electronics like we saw her do earlier on, and which we heard, as I say, Boy Kavalier saying, well, I've given her a few upgrades.
Yeah. We've seen her do that right from the beginning. That's how
absolutely.
She was keeping track of Joe the whole time when she was trying to keep an eye on him. She was interfacing with all the computers around and effectively turning him into her own touch screens. I wonder if that come across to people that don't know the Aliens universe at all, because they've never had touch screens at all. And we're so used to seeing people with them that that it's not really a surprise. But Wendy's the only one that can do that. She interfaces with any type of screen and can effectively connect across the network to any other screen, whether it's on the island of Neverland or not, whether it's out in the real world or not. She's interfacing with all of this stuff. So I know that they had the moment when she refused Joe's request to leave planet and go off to medical college, kind of to illustrate how powerful her powers of being able to interface are, I suppose. But here, she's effectively now in control of the entire facility, because she realizes, well, now I'm a ghost haunting the house. Part of this was through that conversation, she's telling the rest of them we can't be kids and they won't let us grow up. What the hell are we supposed to be to these people? They're telling us that we're just these bodies were really important people, but they're not allowing us to do anything at all. They're just locking us down. So I love this idea where it's we're the ghosts that are haunting the houses. They should be afraid of us.
Yeah, exactly. It was really good. I think the other sort of thing here as well that you get in the cell with the hybrids, and in particular with Wendy, is she is struggling with what Joe did to Nibs, and she's got him on screen. She's looking at him as he sort of peers out of his cell. She thinks that he sided with the humans over them by shooting Nibs, and I like the fact that, in essence, in that moment, she may not have released Joe and indeed Morrow in consequence from their cell. And I think she's debating that, well, do they deserve to be released? Or primarily Joe.
Yeah.
Or, can Joe be associated with me and with us? And she is battling with it, I think. And what I do like here is, because I think Smee is such an understated character, effectively, he's been kind of in the background a lot of the time across most of these episodes. It's mainly with Slightly where we've seen him interact, or within a group's setting, And here in this moment, he kind of sidles up to Wendy here. He's involved a bit in her conversation, and he says, "Oh no, he's one of us."
Yeah.
And hugs her.
Yeah.
And I thought, in that moment, Smee because he is, in essence, I think, the most childlike of all of them, the way he's gone round. It's like, I just want to play. Why have you grown up slightly?
Yeah.
And his sign of affection is to hug. Yeah. To hold, to comfort, to calm down, absolutely, whatever it is. And he does the same again here for Wendy. Yeah. And you then get Wendy unlocking Joe's cell, which also includes Morrow, who maybe she didn't intend to release, really, but it is the consequence of that. And I just like that moment with Smee, because I think, that's almost like his hero moment, I think.
Absolutely. He's certainly the most emotional of the whole team. He is the one that leads by his emotions. Definitely, remember when Arthur was telling them that he'd take care of them. He's the one that reached out and took Arthur's hand like a child being led by their parents. So this has always been part of Smee's character. I've loved him. I've loved what the actor's done with Smee so much throughout the season so far. He's been such a really interesting version of this child in an adult body. Jonathan Jaya, who played the character, has done such a brilliant job bringing that to life. You can really see an 8-year-old or 9-year-old kid every time he's on screen, even though he's much older in an adult body. So, been really, really good.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And of course, it is the bookend here of the cells as well. Yeah. We start here with the power dynamic resting clearly with Prodigy Corp, Boy Kavalier, with those people that he would class as enemies or a threat, being under control or behind bars in a cell, in a holding cell. Yeah. I mean, they do say these weren't really designed to hold the hybrids even, but I think they meant that from a physical point of view rather than ultimately what Wendy then does, which is to use her specific upgrades and abilities afforded to her by being the first hybrid.
Yeah, and I think this also speaks to the other element of the show, them taking back all of the monsters from space and trying to hold them in cells that aren't created to hold the monsters from space. Like, that's what happened. That's why they're on the run, and that's why they've been released now, because they didn't really know what they had in their hand. If they'd known, maybe they wouldn't have had a glass case for the T-Oculus to be able to watch around and make his plans against us, So they've once again landed on their downfall being they weren't prepared to do what they have to do here. They're not prepared with how you would deal with hybrids in a cage, because they've all gotten out and ended off taking them down. One thing I just want to mention in our first point here in the cells, there's a great discussion there between Curly and Marcy or Wendy, where they're talking about the names of the kids on the gravestones, and they talk about the fact that Curly's name was Jane, and she's saying she's not supposed to be there because she's the favorite of Boy K. She seems to have gotten that into her head, that Boy K told her that she was his favorite. And eventually Marcy just looks at her and goes, "No, you don't seem to understand here. The favorite was Wendy darling, and when she grew up, he went and kidnapped her child, and that child was Jane, just like you. You were never the favorite. You were just a replacement for Wendy when she grew up." Yeah. So I love how that story has come a bit full circle. It's almost been like Boy K has been trying to force their whole story into the tale of Peter Pan, but all the bad elements of it are kind of busting out of the story to destroy it. Almost, look, this isn't a great story for any of the kids, the Lost Boys or Peter Pan himself. Everything goes to crap. And a lot of people are taken away and killed if they grow up was one of the elements of it, or thrown aside for a new and better model, like the story of what happens with Jane and with Wendy. So I love how they kind of kept the metaphor in there for the show, and it's not the simple metaphor of a boy who doesn't want to grow older. So yeah.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's the psychotic boy that imprisons people.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, that's kind of my next big moment from the episode, is the discussion from Boy K when he does come down and stands in front of the hybrids, thinking they're all still locked inside.
Well, they technically are when he's there.
They are.
And I have to say, it's just the look on his face as the door just swings open is phenomenal. It was so good, so well done. But yeah, equally to sit there and hear his story. You know, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, and it would fit totally into corporate policy. Well, we want to hear your story, you know, and we want to know about your story because then we'll know whether you can, I don't know, manage people. Okay. Well, clearly, if Prodigy Corp LLC had listened to the story, they'd be going, why did he find us? You know, or it's just, it is the point of spoilt, rich people, children, whatever. Well, we can do it because we own it. We have the money, as though that's the entitlement. Certainly when it comes to, and it's to the point of Wendy or Marcy, is their lives or their existence, however you want to choose it, whether it is them in their conscious form, in a synthetic, the hybrid to entirety of it all, or what they did with the children previously, or what they did with the aliens, is that they can commercialize a xenomorph effectively. That is the point for military purposes, for biological, biotech purposes, whatever it might be. And it's just really, really good that is the basis then, that you get this almost like this HR corporateness of him telling them his story, which ultimately is like shocking.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because he came from nothing. It's part of the story. He's not a rich person. He came from nothing. He lived in a place where his father was an alcoholic. He felt his father would either kill him out of jealousy for his intelligence, or would die or he might die of just the beatings that he was getting. He was so intelligent that he did build his own synthetic, and that's, you know, that's
at the age of 6 or something.
So that's the real surprise, I suppose. Again, we've kind of wondered about his intelligence, whether he just says he's intelligent or is he really intelligent. If he was able to build his own synthetic from scratch at 6 years old, and it be so good that people would think that that's his actual father because he killed his father and then replaced him with the synthetic, which it has been confirmed that's Adamites. Adamites is the synthetic that he built, and he took the place of his father, so he's been with him since the start.
Okay,
which I love that idea.
That is a really cool, but I didn't get that from the episode.
No, it was said by the actor, by Ed Edmondson, in an interview afterwards, that he is the he is the first synth, the one that Boy K built and killed.
That's cool. Yeah, that's very cool.
It's partly because he has to do everything that Boy K says. That's how it comes across in the episode. You see a couple of moments where Adamites, he's kind of turning like a lot of the synths do. He's kind of turning into the kind of like Kirsch, you know. He's getting to that point where he's like, well, I can't really say it. I'm not allowed to say I told you so to Boy K, but if I could, I would say I told you so at this very really moment. Good, you know? Actually, so there's a little bit of that, but yeah, the story of him killing his father, I thought it was older than 6, but yeah, it says 6 years old. So and then from that point onwards, so he's made the decision at 6 years old to kill his father, and then move on and start the process of creating enough to create his empire effectively at 6 years old, with no boundaries, and the only person responsible for him being someone that he's created himself. So that totally explains why.
And created him to obey him at every order, which included killing his own father.
Exactly.
At 6 years old. So, I mean, it is a really, like, terrifying story.
Yeah, absolutely.
That this like still relatively young psychopath, heads this organization.
Absolutely.
You can see why he's so flippant, so obnoxious.
Yeah. And again, one of the things that you kind of extrapolate from this concept that he is a 6-year-old who's created a killer robot. The rules that are there that are supposed to be there in science fiction from, iRobot, from Isaac Asimov. One of the rules is when you create a synthetic being, number 1 rule should be it doesn't kill humans. Number 2 rule is it should protect humans as long as it doesn't contravene number 1. That's the rules, is it doesn't kill humans. This synthetic was built effectively to kill the kid's father, and then step back and take care of him for the rest of his life. So it was created with murder in mind, effectively, so completely contravening those laws, which I just think is an interesting little twist on it as well.
And it does. It puts Boy K into the dark perspective that we kind of have known. It is this idea of, a sociopath, a psychopath, whatever, hiding in sort of normal sight here. Yeah. It's the power and the wealth that he has that affords him leniency from the law that whatever exists, society and so on, or just buttresses him from it.
Well, now he's one of the lawmakers because he's one of the 5, right? So he's one of the 5 companies that rule the world. So he's effectively a lawmaker. So nothing can stop him, well, except for the hybrids. One other interesting discussion that's had as well, and I think you kind of mentioned earlier on, but just to say, the discussion that he has with the hybrids themselves, where again, Curly is pushing the fact that she believes that she's the chosen one, she's the one that's his favorite, and he goes, did I say that? Doesn't really sound like something I'd say, as if she's made this whole thing up herself, because he was pushing her. He was kind of making her compete with Wendy for his affection almost. And he's proves that he has zero affection for these creations of his. Yeah.
That was the real interesting thing from this, just the notion that, you're my prototype. Mm-hmm. And we kind of got that from Atom Mines,
absolutely.
A few episodes earlier, but here it's like, Atom Mines is getting it ultimately from his paymaster here, his creator.
Yeah, he says something. He says it in a real old car salesman type of way. It's like, all you are to me is the showroom models. When I show you off, people will realize they'll be able to get immortality for one low price, so he sounds like that car salesman, and that's all they are. They're just products to make billions more. I know there was an ulterior motive as well, that hopefully he would have a moment where he'd be able to have a real conversation with somebody that has equaled his intelligence, which he does later on in the episode, definitely, but at this point, he's looking at them saying they're effectively just locked behind in a cage for him to do with what he pleases. And as you say, that realization when the lock clicks and the door opens and the hybrids are bearing down on him for their game of hide and seek,
well, Nibs gets his bodyguard. I mean,
yes,
like he doesn't last very long.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. The fact that he survives this episode. Yeah, even though he is then in a cell at the end, was a surprise to me. And certainly after some of these things. But I'm down for it because this is a character that we should stay with for a bit longer.
Yeah.
Now, we might not do. Who knows how a season 2 would potentially start if it ever happens. Yeah. But he is a character that you do want to stay with longer, even if it is just to really hate him even more.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there's so many great villains on TV that you love to hate for years and years, that you watch, 6 seasons of a show and he always gets away or is allowed lived for the next day or whatever. This guy will get his comeuppance at some point in the future. And I'm happy enough to watch a few more episodes or even another season or 2 with him included in there, because he has been absolutely risible. And there's still a good battle there between himself and Yutani, I think, as well.
Well, even have quite a good theory, which would be quite nice. I mean, that's the thing. At this stage, there's so many lovely comeuppances that could happen from many different people. But I'll come to it slightly later, because I think it would be another good one, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it involves 2. people.
Okay.
Or two entities.
Excellent. Well, we'll chat about that in a minute. Anything else about this, I suppose, almost confrontation between Boy K and the hybrids until they release themselves?
No, I think I'd like to get on to the other cell at this stage and the escape of Morrow and Joe here. In particular, Morrow, because he's kind of teamed up with Joe in a sense, in that they're both in a cell at the hands of Prodigy.
Yeah.
But he's also not really that bothered that Joe is there. I mean, I think he thinks if Joe is this wet towel, effectively, very limp, not really going to do much here.
Yeah. Although, did you notice? We were talking about it a couple of episodes ago about Joe getting his lung replaced. Did you notice Morrow did mention that to him, that now you are a hybrid like me? How does it feel to not be fully human anymore? So Morrow is almost seeing Joe as another person like him.
That's true.
In a way,
that is true. I did like how they contained his hand as well, with the big kind of the metal club element, but he does use it to good effect on the guard as they escape, courtesy of Wendy in the other cell. But he immediately starts to track and go after Kirsch.
Yeah, Joe goes off to save who he can, as he said. He's a medic by training, and as Joe goes, just see Morrow going, "Well, you do that. I'm going to burn this entire place down. Go for the kids. I'm going to burn the place down." It's like, whoa, okay, he's on the inside now, and he's going to go straight after Kirsch. Yeah.
Well, and more, I'm guessing, but I do like the fact that you see then Kirsch working away in the lab. You see him get up and go, and there's two guards outside. He comes back, sits down, and there's just two blood splatters on the glass. And the doors open silently as then you see Morrow creeping up slowly but surely on Kirsch. But Kirsch knows he's there, has sensed him, however it is. And what actually comes across here is just really good battle between these two different forms of, I guess, based on the start, immortality, and it was just really nice to see sort of the white milk coming out of Kirsch at the end.
As his back is broken. Yeah, across the bench there, yeah.
But it's a pretty brutal fight because just the antagonism with which the two go after one another that we saw in, at least verbally, we're in the lift, where Morrow's effectively saying, well, the thing I like about killing synths is they don't scream. And Kirsch is like, well, isn't that part of the enjoyment of it? All this kind of stuff. So like really kind of, torture language coming from the two of them.
I was waiting for a crushed eyeball, definitely.
And then, you have this moment where seemingly, Morrow gets the upper hand and breaks Kirsch's back. But it's funny. I was half expecting the blowtorch or the knife to suddenly materialize from Morrow's arm, and it didn't. So I thought that was interesting, why that wasn't kind of in there as part of the fight. But nonetheless, you have Kirsch really kind of disabled there with his back broken over the bench. But then Morrow seems to get distracted because they're in the lab with all the different critters and aliens. And I think there has been a shot fired and the glass is broken, so one of the creatures escapes, and this gives this gives Kirsch a chance just to then sort of knock Morrow out with the chokehold, effectively.
It's the baby xenomorph that gets out, because that's who Kirsch had been giving lessons to. I guess he'd been watching on in that area, looking after the xenomorph. So it's the baby xenomorph that escapes, which is what's freaking Morrow out, because he's had dealings with that. There was an interesting moment when he said to Joe, when Joe was looking at him going, "You were on that ship, weren't you? You shot me." And he goes, "I saved your life." Kind of a little bit of an explanation for why Joe wasn't killed by the Xeno at that party. Morrow saving him from the xenomorph by knocking him out, he thinks, anyway. So,
yeah, absolutely.
If Joe had been not knocked out when the xenomorph got free, he would have taken him out along with all the rest of the
he's
soldiers,
already knocked out the xenomorph, and then he knocks out Joe.
Yeah, but do you remember just after that, the Xeno gets free again and kills all of the soldiers. And it would have gone after Joe again because Joe would have been a full human alive and awake, basically. So because he was unconscious is the argument, at least, that Morrow is giving. So Morrow knows he has to deal with the xenomorph. He realizes it's free, is distracted, and then is taken out here by Kirsch, knocked down to the ground. And both of them are now unconscious when Slightly and Smee come in to gather them up.
I do like the fact that when they arrive as well, you have Kirsch going, "Oh, great, you're here now. It would have been even better if you'd arrived 10 minutes ago so that I didn't have a broken back, effectively." Yeah. And he kind of gives him some, I don't know what they were. Like it looked like beads, a necklace or something a bit different. And he says, use them and tie up Morrow.
Yeah. I think they were his innards. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But
I hope not. But anyway, Smee just turns him over and starts tying him up. And
so funny,
the look on his face is just really, really good. I must say, Kirsch is excellent. And I'm really pleased that at the end, despite him being sort of incapacitated, really, he is still functional in the cell.
Yeah.
It's possibly an interesting thing to note here that Marcy, the other hybrids, aren't distinguishing between human adults and synthetics that are also effectively that come across as adults.
Yeah.
Or cyborgs, even with Morrow.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. I do also then like that Slightly gets the chance to tie up Morrow and effectively knocks him out with one of the sample containers, you know?
Yeah, and interestingly, the last thing he says to him was, "I didn't hurt your mother." I was wondering about that, whether he killed all of Slightly's family before embarking on this journey, so he didn't have to come back. But Morrow's saying he didn't kill their family. You know, I do wonder about Morrow's motivations. He has seemed, pretty evil in what he did to Slightly over the course of the season, but we do also know that he had a child who died while he was away. That was the light of his life, effectively. So did he just put all that aside and believe he could manipulate Slightly, or is he a murderer, I suppose, was kind of the question that was going through my head.
I think he is a murderer.
But when Morrow says this to Slightly, that he hasn't killed her mother, I tend to believe him.
I would.
He didn't.
I would believe him as well. Yeah. But ultimately as well, whilst he may not have done it, the threat of doing it has caused Slightly to be like in bits. So,
absolutely.
Hence why Slightly is more than happy to knock him out again. And actually, I mean, Morrow's face has had a bit of a battering. I mean, he was really beaten up there in the cell as well. But to be honest, he got his comeuppance as well.
Yeah.
Again, he's in the cell at the end as a cyborg, and Kirsch is in there as a synth. So it's interesting that they are in there, actually. More so Kirsch, I think, because he's not human. He's not an adult. You would argue that whilst he may have also manipulated and used them, he was also saying to them, you are something different. Like, he was giving a very different tone. I mean, at least how I took it at the start. I think as it's gone on, and like you see now, he was manipulating it for his own reasons.
Yeah, and it's no coincidence who Marcy sends out to collect the rest of the grown-ups to bring them back in. And I think they're called grown-ups as in we're still the Lost Boys, they're the grown-ups, and they're going to all be dragged back and put in here. The reason why Smee and Slightly are sent out to get Morrow and Kirsch back is because Kirsch was involved in their in their escape attempt, effectively. He didn't help them, though. He allowed them to escape and go and pick up Morrow. He used them to get Morrow. And that's why they bring Morrow back with extreme prejudice. But the other one I really like is it's Nibs that's sent out to bring back Dame Sylvia.
Yeah.
But not only that, she gets an extra bit of judgment from the group of hybrids, because while she's locked up in her room and has been brought back by the military officers, that brought her back to her own office.
She comes face to face with a xenomorph at the graves.
She does,
and it's Joe's team that kind of bring her back and say, "You've got to stay here for your own safety." Yeah,
but while she's in there, left on her own with everything falling down around her. There's a bit of manipulation going on there from Marcy as she starts to play clips of each of the kids and what they said to her, landing on Marcy as a child, going, "We'll be okay, won't we? Won't we?" Over and over again, starting to drive Dame Sylvia, again the psychologist and psychiatrist for these kids. She's starting to drive her insane as she's smashing all of the screens so she doesn't have to hear the kids. It's great.
It was really good. I mean, it's almost like a Frankenstein moment, actually. With Dr. Frankenstein kind of going crazy with what he's created and sort of being pursued by his monster. And it's certainly because it was like, it's the rain lashing against the window, the kind of semi-darkness of her room, and just sort of I love that she's looking out at the rain and you just see the silhouette of Nibs coming in, and it's just like, that to me was like really, really frightening, given what happened you know, between the two of them in that room previously. So it was just really, really, really well done, I thought.
Absolutely, and then Nibs is the one that drags her off, I guess, afterwards. Yeah, really good. We mentioned there about Joe's former team of military people who are now stationed on the island. Let's talk about them and, I guess, the final of the space monsters that we haven't seen attack, because they are looking through the facility, trying to lock down the facility, and they're trying to get to bigger and bigger weapons to lock down.
We're going to need a bigger boat.
Absolutely, to stop the xenomorph, really, because they've seen the xenomorph trying to attack Dame Sylvia. So they work their way all the way back through and end off going back through our favourite location, the labs.
Well, it's also, not only did they see the xenomorph go after Dame Sylvia and they interrupted it, but there's a really interesting kind of little bit of a montage where it effectively shows Wendy having communicated to it through the comms, whereby it's just taking out all the Prodigy patrols that are happening. So there's just the bridge dripping with blood, or like a clearing filled with bodies, and Joe's former team are kind of still surviving, but they're it's becoming more on edge as they go through. They have a real edgy moment with a lift, about, what did you call it? And it's like, well, let's get in, and then it stops because Wendy's stopped it, and then it's going to self-destruct. And again, it's this lovely combination of so many different horror metaphors, like the haunted house,
absolutely,
Dr. Frankenstein, Alien, you name it. It's just really, really good.
And that they even make Smee quite creepy in that moment when the countdown's going on, and it cuts back to Smee, who's in his childlike voice is doing the countdown at exactly the same time.
Absolutely,
that's the countdown to their death, potentially. Like, they do stop it.
I mean, in that sense, Smee has a bit of the Midwich Cuckoo children kind of thing about, with the exception of being blonde-haired and golden-eyed. It's like there's almost that kind of element of destruction, chaos, murder, mayhem, whatever it is happening around, and it's like all very childlike. Going, 7, 6,
absolutely,
5. Do you know what I mean? All this kind of stuff. And so that works really well as well. But yes, they are back in the lab, and we do get to see the final alien that we have seen actually since the crash ship. I guess up till now, the only way you could describe it is sort of a ceiling pod. I think Kirsch described it as, well, it mimics as flora, but I think it might be fauna. I like to call it, even though it does move and it's not as stationary as the creature from the video game Half-Life and Half-Life 2. So they are called barnacles, and they throughout the game, you could be walking along, and if you don't look up and shoot them and kill them, all of a sudden you're being dragged up into the air. Just like happened to Siberian here. So I'm absolutely delighted in that whilst this creature, the pod, is way more mobile than the Half-Life creature, I'm hoping that the genesis of it or the inspiration for it is coming from the barnacle in Half-Life.
Right, yeah.
It's just giving me a bit more of an edge and that it's a bit more mobile. Because it does, like, it's quite big, and they were like going, what's that? What's that? And it also blends quite nicely in with the wall.
Absolutely,
But I did like that. So I was pleased as punch seeing the barnacle's first kill. So I'm just going to call it a barnacle.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the way we've seen it multiple times throughout the season is that it kind of reaches out with its little tentacles coming out of the pod itself. And now, when you think back to all the people who've interacted with it, Tootles was the first to interact, along with Kirsch, and then we had Tootles again when it was up against the glass. It was kind of interacting with it. But Siberian's the first human that we know has interacted with it.
Yes.
So we've been close enough to it, and the instant reaction is drag it inside and squish it and kill it. You know, like you hear her screaming and you hear her being crushed, and you think, oh, maybe she'll be able to get out of there. Her other partner, Rashidi, who's been at her side the whole time, is shooting it with his gun, and then suddenly Siberian stops moving, and you know she's dead. It's very quick death after a slow moment of dragging her up. She is standing underneath it for a second or two longer than she probably should have. But I don't think it's a situation where she could have run very far because of those tentacles. I'd say we would have seen it reach out and grab her and drag her in very quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it was awesome. I love that kind of thing. I mean, even if it's not fauna and it is a flora, it's almost like a flycatcher or something like that.
Yes,
you know?
Or the very obvious Little Shop of Horrors, Audrey 2, you know.
Exactly.
Feed me, Kirsty.
Feed me, Siberian.
There you go.
Feed me now.
That could be it. So, yes, it was great to see that we have the fifth of the 5 aliens coming to life and taking out somebody. So yeah, we'll probably see more of that.
Yeah, I think we should get on to one of our favourite little sort of eyeball-y aliens.
We absolutely should,
because
it's going to star of the series.
We do have Teoculus sort of really being hinted at or sort of built up to suddenly burrow itself into Boy Kavalier, and that doesn't happen here. I mean, there is an instance where Boy Kavalier is looking at it, I'm like going, is he going to sacrifice himself here? Is this kind of like a bit of a ballmance or something here going on? Like this bro ballmance.
Like, it's funny, we had this discussion earlier on in the season that I was wondering whether Boy Kavalier would put it into himself. And he's just so... He needs it to happen. He needs to have it inside a human so he can talk to it. Like the security guard that's with him in the room, he's like, how do you feel about your eyes? And the security guard goes, what was that, sir? It's like, go find Atom 1. Which I love. I thought that was really good. He doesn't pronounce it in the same way. I think it was intended as a joke that the guy thinks he heard Atom 1 or thinks he heard eyes, but he doesn't pronounce it that way. It's just a very funny moment. But he's staring at this, at the Teoculus in the sheep going, oh, how I wish you could talk. And as you say, it does feel like he's kind of going, well, I just stuff it in my head and maybe we can talk, maybe we can have that conversation, you know. But he finds another way around it. It
is kind of, but I do like this. It's kind of like falling in love here. But you have Atom 1 waiting for Joe. Joe's looking to see who he can save, and in the end, Atom 1 says that, well, Boy Kavalier has got a proposition for him, you know, that would involve him and Wendy living happily ever after. Of course, it's all nonsense. It's all just a ruse in order for him to sort of take Joe to Boy Cavalier's room, where he's already released the sheep, and he closes the door behind him, and there is the sheep, and you just see the little tiny tip of the tentacles starting to come out, and Joe's like going, what? And Infernus Joe runs, you know, I would have done the same thing, runs towards the actual pen that the sheep had been in originally.
I thought that was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, it can't get out of there, so can it get in? What a great choice, and so quick thinking of Joe to jump directly in there. I was going, okay, even if he locks himself inside, and if the Teoculus can't get into him, he's safe until Wendy comes and saves him, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If Teoculus hadn't been so intelligent to realize, I can just go in the feeding tube that they've been feeding me through. And that's how he gets into the cage with Joe, is by going in through that feeding tube, or where the hay was left for the sheep, effectively. So,
no, but it's worse than that. So it's actually that because it's a transportable one, it's not the one he was being held in the lab. So it is slightly different. It's almost like one of those bins that you open it up, put the rubbish in, and then close it up again. So actually, as long as you can open it up and then there's nothing on the other side, so he's able to get in. Luckily, Joe manages to get out, but again, you just have that lovely, real just chaoticness of the Teoculus with all its tentacles going after Joe and like picking at its cheek, like you saw with Nibs, and what ultimately gave her the EBGBs. And I just thought it was really, really good.
So cool.
And I also then realized just how tough this little critter is, because you're kind of going, human eyeball, squishy.
Yes.
And maybe given that it's an eyeball outside of any containment, then it's maybe a little bit different. Whilst it looks like an eyeball, it's probably not as squishy, because it also gets battered around quite a bit by Wendy as she comes in to, prevent it from burrowing into the optic nerve of Joe. So that was the other thing. I was almost getting a little protective over it. I was like, no, don't kill it, Wendy.
Don't stand on it.
Don't stand on it. Like when she flicked it across the room and it kind of hit, I was like, oh no, it's just going to like splat, like a fly hitting a windshield, on the motorway.
It's more jelly-like. It just rolls down to the floor and then gets back on with the job to go after Joe. I love this. It was so exciting because what happens afterwards is Atomines takes off his jacket and goes to fight against Wendy. He's about to go into battle against her. And all the while, Wendy has to contend with Atomines and also the eyeball going for her brother Joe, who's knocked out to the ground. So I love she has to not only keep an eye on the eyeball, she has to keep an eye on Atomines as well. So, so that's really good.
But it's like she has to push Atomines and then she had to bat Teoculus away.
Yeah.
And I think Teoculus then realizes, certainly, like he sees Wendy do her Jedi mind trick effectively on Atomines, where she can effectively freeze him because he's a really early version of a synth.
Just another bit of technology.
Exactly.
It all,
And you see Teoculus watch that, and I like the fact that it's almost like he jumped down into a little hole to escape.
Yeah, jumped into the drain. Off he went.
Off he went. But it felt like it was almost. It wasn't cartoony, but it felt really cool. I liked it.
I know what you mean. And I have to say, a little shout out to Aid Edmondson in his Frozen moment when he just does the eye movement to know that he can still move his eyes and he doesn't understand why his body won't move and follow him into the attack against Wendy. I really like that. We see that twice afterwards, that he's just frozen in that moment but can still move the eyes.
But one of the things as well that's kind of interesting then is that the old Teoculus finds its way onto the beach through the drains and comes out and has Arthur. I know. Arthur Sylvia is there ready for him, and he plonks himself into Arthur. And I love the fact that, very zombie-like.
Absolutely.
Arthur just hinges up from the waist.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really good.
Yeah, I was trying to think what that was that was very similar to this. The thing that attaches itself to the bodies and turns them into zombies. Is it the Hypnotoad in Futurama that has the little creatures that attach to people's brains and turn them into zombies? So next season, if it gets a second season in Alien Earth, we now have zombies to add to the mix with Arthur in essence, back alive again.
Well, we had zombie sheep in this season.
Yeah, but now we have zombie humans, and there's definitely been hints that Teoculus will be able to speak through a human if it's attached to one.
I think so.
So I think we're going to bring back Arthur, and we're going to have him speaking for the Teoculus. What a cool idea.
It would be really interesting, and this is my theory around the people queuing up to have a pot shot at Boy Kavalier is because not only is this Teoculus, but it's also Arthur who was treated pretty bad as well. And so I could just get the sense that Teoculus will use Arthur's body and arms to hold Boy Kavalier by the neck, or hold the arms down and hold him as he just kind of you see the ice squit out of Arthur's socket as he then goes into Boy Kavalier.
I love it, John. I love it. Yes, that would be pretty much just desserts right there.
Wendy, I'm sure, and Marcy is at the front of the queue. You could have Curly. There's so many people there. Even Morrow wants to kill him, for very different reasons. Because Arthur, I think, was one of the best of them.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, ultimately stood by his principles. Yeah. And in the end, he's been given a second chance. Actually, I mean, I kind of yelled, yay, because Arthur's alive. He's back alive, Yeah.
It sounds a little bit like you're Dr. Frankenstein now.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just I can see something whereby Dame Sylvia's they managed to escape or something. She just sees the silhouette of her husband from behind, and then that's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's in Dame Sylvia. And I mean, he's in a very, given that Teoculus has gotten the optic nerve of Arthur, depending on how much information it's able to extract from a dead body, then this is quite an Encyclopedia Britannica that it's sort of burrowed into here.
Yeah, really.
It's not sheep.
Yeah.
And so on.
Yeah.
This is someone who effectively was able to resurrect the human consciousness along with his wife.
Yes, we'd certainly have to see how that plays out in season 2, because obviously he was lying on that beach for quite a while, so brain death 100% happened to Arthur. But but if Teoculus can go in and retrieve memories and retrieve stuff from inside his brain,
you never know.
You never know. But I do want to mention that Arthur had another great moment in the episode, sort of. I loved that the opening of the episode was a crab in the ocean climbing up, and then we see the crab in the crevice on Arthur's body, the one left behind from the chest burster, as the xenomorph comes up, and the defensive crab stands up to the xenomorph, and then the xenomorph walks away. Now, obviously, the xenomorph walked away because Arthur's dead, but it did look a little bit like crab's not on the menu today.
And it also looked and went, "Ooh, a Yoda moment. There is another."
Oh yes,
because he sees the damage from the chest burster. But yeah, I like that moment as well. I was I like animals. I was like feeling a little fearful for the old crab here. Yeah.
Can you imagine if the xenomorph got a taste of crab and went, "That's really way tastier than human"?
Yeah, I know. So sweet.
Yeah, I got after crabs.
Definitely the claws.
Watch out, Baltimore, and your crab festival.
Exactly. Taken over by the xenomorph.
Excellent. Anything else about the Teoculus before we move on to our final point, John?
I think, given it's the last episode, just to say, hats off. I think just bringing another, group of alien creatures in with the xenomorph. Yeah. It's very, I think things like the ticks, even the pod or the barnacle, seen that a lot before. And the fly even. Yeah. But I think to bring in something like Teoculus, like conceptually to think that up, really good.
Absolutely. And it's the reason why the show's called Alien Earth and not Xenomorph Earth, right? Yeah. That they were able to bring in loads of different aliens, and now we've fallen in love with the Teoculus, and he's going body to body.
I do like the barnacle as well.
The barnacle's cool,
but that's a Half-Life thing for me.
Yeah, I thought each of them were very cool, but Teoculus has definitely had a lot more of the limelight this season, and rightly so. He's been really good.
Definitely.
She's been really good. Sorry, did I confirm it was a she?
Okay.
Yeah.
So there could be another one of those. What's its reproduction.
Well, yeah,
cycle.
that's something for season 2, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's get on to our final point then. Now we rule, because the big switch up has happened. As we mentioned earlier on throughout the episode, each of the grown-ups, in inverted commas, has all been put into the cell where the hybrids were kept at the beginning of the episode. So now they're all inside, and Wendy and the crew are standing outside, talking to them about what they've learnt from their adult carers, basically. So we have Kirsch with his broken back lying across the top bunk, effectively. Yeah. We have a great moment with Dame Sylvia as she's looking out through the bars at Wendy going, "Oh, please, my dear, I didn't mean to do anything, you know." And Wendy instantly knows who this person is. This is another manipulation from Dame Sylvia. She had many opportunities to help the hybrids out and always chose Boy K or herself, as we talked about earlier on in the season. So she shuts her down instantly. I know you're just trying to wriggle your way out of here, but you're not getting out. And then we see, obviously, Morrow's in there as well, and Boy K tied up with his arms outstretched as if he's Peter Pan going to fly, I think, is the indication there. He's wearing a green top as well, I noticed. So he's tied up, and she gives him what for. Tells him, "You're not the stunted boy that you're telling everybody that you are, a child that will not grow up. You're exactly like your father. You grew up into an adult, and you hate humans. You hate everybody else around you, and you show it in everything you do." Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, she's... The scathingness of it is you've never been a kid. Mm-hmm. You've murdering someone at 6. You were an adult before your time.
Exactly.
You never got a chance to really live as being a kid, and that's what shows here. That you're just like your father. Before you. So it's just really scathing. And it's a great little angle, actually.
It is, isn't it?
To come in on.
Yeah. And we didn't mention how he was captured. He was captured during the hide and seek by the xenomorph finding him while Joe and Wendy arrive behind him. The Xeno doesn't even kill him. She's able to stop the xenomorph from taking out Boy K. And then it's Joe that kicks him in the face. So Joe even gets a kick in.
He does, absolutely. And so it's really good. And, basically with all of them in the prison, we do get this kind of faded in sequence where you see the face of the head of Yutani, but then her approaching sort of planes and military team that are approaching the island to take it back. So that's quite interesting as well as to how that will shape up possibly in a season 2. Again, that's what I mean, is will it just be an immediate carry on with having to sort of fight off Yutani's forces here, because we do have that moment where Wendy, with both of the xenomorphs being close to her, turns to her other hybrids and says, "Now we rule."
Yes.
It might only be for a short time if those Yutani forces are maybe a little more capable than the Prodigy ones.
Yeah. I don't think they will be. And I don't think they're going to carpet bomb the place. I think they want to get in there and get their specimens back.
Oh, absolutely.
And they will want to take the hybrids back with them as well. But the hybrids are pretty powerful and ready for a fight, I think, as well.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, I was wondering whether it would just be, Yutani arrives, everybody, all the grown-ups are all tied up inside here when she arrives, and she wonders where everything is, and actually the hybrids have gone and taken all the specimens with them, because there is that very clear distinction that Wendy makes earlier on in the season, saying that she feels empathy almost with all of the aliens because they've been experimented on like her. So it's possible that she is asked to take all of the specimens with her off island. So wherever they are, there goes the aliens, or she's left them behind to deal with Boy K and his people.
Yeah,
maybe, but I think she's definitely taken the Xenos with her to the next location.
Yeah. I think with the other aliens, like she has not formed a bond with them.
Yeah, true.
If she does take them, it's going to have to be in the sample jars. And actually, then the Teoculus is its own thing entirely.
It is, absolutely. Absolutely. Why do you think Boy K wasn't killed by the xenomorph? Do you think it's in that much control of Wendy, or was there any other reason? Like, does he have some hybrid inside him, or is he a synth, or anything like that? Because we haven't seen a xenomorph not attack a human before. We've seen it being stopped, like with Dame Sylvia. We've seen Joe getting out of it because somebody else saved him.
I think it did attack because that was the instruction from Wendy.
Right.
I mean, so there's been another instance where the xenomorph has not killed a human.
Oh, yes.
And that is Joe, as him, Wendy, and Nibs are trying to escape the island. They're surrounded by Prodigy soldiers,
true,
and the xenomorph comes from the tree, the branches of a tree. And because of Wendy, so it's clearly the bond with Wendy here that is the determining factor.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
And even just the fact that at the end, where you have both the xenomorphs, where you have the little one almost kind of, it almost looks like two cats sort of purring together or something like that, or, all the other hybrids are there, and the alien and the aliens previously haven't really distinguished either between humans and synths. So it's not just humans that they're not attacking.
Right.
It's Wendy herself.
Yeah, true.
And Smee and Slightly and Nibs and Curly. So like all of those technically, are much luckier than Ash, for example.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So but I think it's the Wendy factor.
Yeah, no, good point. Anything else about the final moment, the now we rule moment for this episode?
No, nothing from me. I think, interesting ending, actually.
Absolutely.
This notion of this power dynamic change and what that means for a season 2 of Alien Earth.
Absolutely. Because there's one other thing that I had in my notes that we haven't talked about, just one discussion that happens between Joe and Marcy, where they're kind of arguing over the fact that Marcy's so close to the xenomorphs, and Joe's going, they're going to kill us. They're after humans. They want to kill us all. And Marcy's basically saying, well, they're not after me, effectively. And then he says, he's about to say it's complicated. And she goes, no, don't say it's complicated. Powerless people say that to make doing nothing okay. And I am not powerless. And I feel like that's the moment where she makes that decision of now we rule. Now we are going to do something that nobody else is willing to do, is basically what the implication of that. It's about the hybrids who are willing to make changes, who are willing to stand up for the oppressed almost. And the oppressed doesn't necessarily mean humans. It means all of the things that are oppressed on this planet, including beings created by humans and aliens being experimented on by humans. So it's not necessarily a good thing. And I also like the positioning of Joe in that final scene. He is right at the back of the pack of hybrids. He's not in charge. He's not a leader. He's not side by side with his sister anymore. He's in the back, almost in the shadows, as he's going to be leaving with them. He's still part of their group, but he seems like he's on the outs completely. Maybe he thinks if he stays with them, he can eventually talk Marcy into some sense, or into her old self again, maybe somehow. But I love that he's the one that's as far away from the xenomorphs and the hybrids. I thought that was a really good placement in that final episode.
Yeah, no, it is an interesting conversation that they have there as well. I mean, even just like Joe trying to say, I shot Nibs because she was hurting my friends as well. And I think there's an element of understanding there from Wendy, but it's equally, yes, then they have that conversation, really. Yeah. That, each time humans have spoken to her, even and I think it's coming from the Dame Sylvia thing, it's complicated.
Yes, exactly.
Always saying that same thing. In fact, maybe it's Arthur that never said that.
Yeah.
He just treated them like people.
Yeah.
Whether they were or they weren't, he wasn't getting into existential questions over it, like Kirsch or Dame Sylvia. It was like, well, we now have a duty to look after them.
Yeah.
He is the one that turned off the tracker, and so on. I think Smee understood he was a good person, and that's why he was angry with Slightly. And I think that is a lot to be said for, and that's, I think, the other thing with Joe is that it's lucky that Smee has that view of him, because I think he may have been less lucky.
Yes. Absolutely. Last note I have is actually about Kirsch, because Kirsch was on my list of being the first created cyborg, the one that Boy K created to kill his father. It would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? Because Kirsch has seemed quite murderous throughout the season and seems to kind of do what he wants to do. That's the kind of thing that would happen if you created a synth that's 6 years old and it's been alive for 15, 16 years, right by your side, had played the part of your father. But then again, Kirsch not great with people either, so maybe not. But there is a moment early on in the episode where Atom Mines is surveying all the damage, surveying everything that happened. He's talking over the microphone to Boy K, and Boy K isn't responding. And then he reaches out to Kirsch, and Kirsch says to him, with your ADHD, as extreme as it is, you should be taking your medication. And I was wondering whether that was coming from him being a father figure to Boy K. So I just wondered about it. But again, I think it also makes sense that Atom Mines a little bit less intelligently played, I guess, than Kirsch would be more of the first model, and Kirsch should be a later model. Maybe that's the case. We may find out more about that in between seasons, perhaps.
Well, maybe, but I mean, it's certainly, you wouldn't know how soon after Atom Mines Kirsch is, because they don't have to go by age.
True. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's the other side of it. Yep. But clearly, if they've said that Atom Mines is that synth, then okay, fair enough.
Well, Ada Edmondson has said that, but actors have been known to be wrong when the writers get back in the writer's room and think something is the right way to go for the next season. I also heard this week, before we close it out, I did hear this week, Timothy Oliphant saying the worst thing on this show was having to dye his eyebrows white for the show, which was really painful. There you go. It's one that I just learned this week in one of the interviews. Anyway, so John, what did you think of this as the finale of Alien Earth Season 1?
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, actually. I give it 4.5 crab claws out of 5. It wasn't necessarily what I was expecting. To me, it was a curveball, but I enjoyed it. Yeah. I enjoyed the curveball of ultimately seeing this power dynamic shift from everyone, the hybrids in the cell at the start, to ultimately being the humans and the synths. And indeed, Morrow ultimately started and ended in a cell. At the end, and in between, I think what you got was this shifting power dynamic where a lot of soul searching was being done by Wendy, in particular around her relationship with her brother Joe. And that's what I mean. That's why I really enjoyed the Smee element to that. I mean, don't know whether I'm right, but it felt like that was a turning point for her. I loved just seeing the barnacle come to life, getting Siberian. The fight between Kirsch and Morrow, these two antagonists, and to me, I kind of thought this whole season was going to end off with the xenomorph being culled because it's on Earth. Not that there would be two of them, and a whole rake of others. So. Yeah, I thought we would have seen the death of Boy Kavalier. Yeah. And I'm, in a sense, really pleased that all these characters are still thriving and breathing.
Yes, I want to know more.
Yeah, I want to know more. Yeah. So, Third Jews, I thought it was a really good episode, and I think it tied up a lot of stuff anyway, even if it kept a lot of stuff open. Yeah. It was really good.
I think the story that's been tied up actually is the tale of Peter Pan, the Lost Boys, and Neverland. So we may never need to come back to this island. We can go somewhere on Earth and have all of these characters doing different things in the next season, which is cool. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah. definitely. What about yourself, Derek?
Love this as a closer for season 1. I hope we get a season 2 announcement soon.
Yeah,
because the sooner we get it, the more chance there is that it will start production soon. And that means we're going to get more of this. But that's absolutely fine. Again, I do think the arc of this season was told really well. I think there was really good stories and great characters and some really good, exciting action throughout the season and some fantastic scenes in this final episode as well. So this has lived up as one of my favorite shows of the year, even to its final episode. And I hope we're going to get more in the future. My question originally was, would we have Noah Hawley's Legion type show where it continues with the same characters into an even better second season and an even better third season, or will we have something like his Fargo where it's a completely different story set in the same world with brand new characters? I'm really hopeful that these characters will come back next season because they're so well drawn. I'd hate to throw all of them out and have a brand new set of characters next season. So I hope we do get more with this crew.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, John, let's get on to some feedback from our wonderful Lost Boys and Girls. We recorded early last week and we're recording late this week, so we do have some feedback that came in about episode 7 after we'd recorded. Going to start off with some feedback on email from Robert Williams.
Yes, Robert says, wow, that ending. Is she going to call back the Xenomorph? Is she going to kill her brother? I started hearing the metal music intro and I said, no way, they can't cut it here. There's no way. I think the kid actors are doing a great job acting as kids in a super futuristic robot body. The way they act around the chest bursting was totally believable. Mm-hmm. I also believe, outside of maybe one of the Alien prequel movies, Prometheus, of a chest bursting out in the open as opposed to an inclusive space on the spaceship. And it struck me how the change in scenery really does change the whole experience of watching. I don't know if it's my natural human feeling that outside there's more room to run and get away from it, but I don't quite know how to explain it. Do you guys get that? Thanks for the great pod, as always, guys. Cheers, Robert from South Carolina, still hunkered inside from the giant mozzies. Well, I hopefully... you need a few of the barnacle pods to just, like...
To take out the mosquitoes?
Yeah, pluck them out the air.
Maybe that might work. They've got a taste for human flesh, though, unfortunately, so don't walk underneath them.
Yeah. Great stuff, Robert. Thanks for that. I think... Yeah, I think certainly in terms of that change of scenery from not being inside a spaceship, but being out on an island, I think it's really interesting choice because even I would say the sense of the xenomorph, it looks more mottled and green. Yeah. Like it's camouflaging, it's evolving or it's responded to its surroundings. Yes. This notion of, growing up effectively and so rather than going in pure black and white like the interior of a spaceship and picking one of those colors, I guess a pure white sort of albino xenomorph would have been quite interesting. But
there is one of those in one of the in Prometheus.
Yes, or something. There is actually. So I think this. I think it is a different feeling outside. Yeah. I think in terms of whether it feels safer and that you've got more space to run, I think it just feels like... I'm not entirely sure it makes me feel safer. I think I just feel like it would be like a lion chasing me down in the Serengeti or something that, there's a lot of space, but actually... I'm in their world here.
I wouldn't be running anywhere to try and find where it disappeared to. I just want to keep as far away from it as possible. So the fact that, in that scene afterwards, Kirsch has captured the runaway chestburster that's becoming the xenomorph quite quickly after it gets away, I was pretty happy with that. But the fact there's another xenomorph on the island roaming around, I feel like being a member of that, of those guards of the security team who are being sent out, team number 65, it's your time to go out and hunt down the xenomorph that's killed, hundreds of people. Like the voiceover in this episode from Adam Hines saying, and they're kind of running out of men now. They had a massive security team at the beginning of the season, and now they're running short of people. The Xenos are still terrifying out in the open as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff. Thanks, Robert.
Absolutely. Thanks, Robert. Christina Jones did a message to us just before the finale came out for Alien Earth. She says, "Greetings from Ohio, John and Derek. I have let Facebook and Twitter go, thus I can't drop a line to offer my continued enjoyment of your platform in the millisecond of time I have in this busy, busy life. But no, you guys always bring me joy with your reviews. I love this show, and I'm so pleased to hear your excitement as well. What they have managed to do with the hybrids and the other aliens is the step forward in this franchise that you want to see for such a beloved genre. Just know the iMidge is known as Ailisha. She's a diva, and the name fits." Oh, fantastic.
That is superb.
Kirsch out here trying to take the Zadie Award away from The Mandalorian as well. The themes of this series are incredibly fascinating, taking advantage of the most vulnerable in society, grooming, psychological trauma, and what it means to be human in an inhumane world. Can you domesticate a wild animal? Hearing the Chino stories, I think not. Are the humans better than the monsters? It reminds me of a George Carlin bit when he compared chickens to humans. They don't put car batteries on each other's nipples or nuts. No chicken ever came home and smacked his hen. Good stuff and poignantly relevant.
Well, that is true.
Looking forward to listening to your finale review. Hopefully we get a season 2. Christina, aka Black Girl Couch Reviews. Thanks so much, Christina, for your thoughts coming up to the finale, and thanks so much for your compliments for the podcast. I've been listening along to your coverage as well.
Yeah.
It's been really good. Hearing your thoughts as well.
I must say thank you for Ailisha.
Absolutely, that's brilliant.
She is a diva indeed. Love it.
Yep.
I'm just so, I think the iMidge, Octi Eyeball, whatever, Teoculus, whatever you want to call it, it's just fantastic that this little critter has just generated all this chit chat about, well, what should we call it? Ultimately it's an alien, but it is superb, and
it is. And you forgot the other one, John, the Alien, which was also one of my favorites from the season. Yeah.
But there are so many. There's just so many, and I have to say, Ailisha has made it right up to the top of the list there.
Yep.
Interesting. Kirsch or The Mandalorian. I guess there's less metal to have to drill through with Kirsch.
True. Although he is entirely metal.
But maybe once you get past that, it's only skin deep with Kirsch.
Maybe.
And there's a lot of ping pong balls and stuff in there. I'm trying to think back to Ash's innards in the first Alien, where it looked like a table tennis kit had been sort of attacked with a bottle of milk.
Yeah. But that's what I meant when he gave the kids the thing to tie up Morrow. It looked like ping pong balls on string. So it looked like the stuff that was inside Ash when we saw him cut open.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it did. Or something else, which I can't say on a PG podcast.
True.
Anyway.
Christina, thank you so much for your email, as always.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Christina.
I'm looking forward to hearing your own finale podcast over on Black Girl Couch Reviews as well.
Definitely. Also on episode 7, Dr. Bob Phillips says, "This has been a consistently superb show. The chess game of Kirsch and Morrow is reaching its peak. Will the fruit or the vegetable come out on top in the end?" The Smee and Slightly actors shock me each week with their pitch of their small boy performances, and the horror of the chestburster was renewed by seeing this through a child's eyes. What a way to hammer this home without it being too much and using a child actor. Also, a good reminder for all non-pediatricians that you never disrespect a soft toy. While not usually deadly, the consequences are dreadful.
Absolutely.
Indeed. Yeah. Soft toys.
Yeah.
Still got them.
Yeah, Nibs would not have killed that soldier if he hadn't taken her soft toy away. So, yeah, you definitely don't do that, especially someone going through what Nibs is going through as well.
Yeah,
so,
don't take away my Henry.
We will not, John. We will not. He will sit atop the bed or atop the wardrobe, wherever you want him to be.
And whilst we're talking about soft toys, I'll give a shout out to Eeyore as well. One of my friends' soft toys as well.
Yes, Eeyore Jones. Yes, follow him on Instagram.
Exactly.
Yes, he travels the world with one of our
soft toys are important.
They certainly are.
Good stuff. Thanks, Dr. Bob. And I totally agree around sort of Smee and Slightly as actors and what they're doing there. Really, really good.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Bob. We have thoughts on this episode in from Coffee and Vodka. He says, "Greetings, fellow pan-pretender defenders. Now we rule. Beginning with the end, a perfect conclusion and cliffhanger. This was all very much the Wendy show, and deservedly so. Her manipulation of the security systems, command of the Lost Boys, and calling in of the Xenomorph troops pretty much made it her versus everyone, with the outcome never really in doubt. The smooth cause and effect progression throughout blurred and streamlined the details, seemingly halving the runtime, all the result of an excellent series of plans coming together, and it all began with Nibs, who it was nice to see still alive, comparing their merry hybrid band to Ghosts and Wendy, all but saying, we're not locked in here with them, they're locked in here with us." Speaking of, when the cell door separating Kavalier and the Lost Boys popped open, I could almost hear viewers worldwide cheer. Morrow and Kirsch cancelling each other out with the help of Smee and Slightly, the cornering of Dame Sylvia by Nibs, oh that smile, the deliciously deserved game of hide and seek, Wendy's melting of Hermit's moral logic, and all the other elements made this one of the best season closers I've ever seen. Oh, so ready for season 2. 5 boy captives, hybrid on human head games, and proxy papas out of 5. Peace and take care. Coffee and Vodka.
Great stuff, Coffee and Vodka. Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with all of that. Really good episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff. Thanks, Coffee Vodka. Thanks for your thoughts throughout the season as well. It's been really good hearing you.
Yes. Also on episode 8, Dr. Bob Phillips says, "And that is why you don't let children take charge of a major weapons of mass destruction aliens containing secret bunker." I really enjoyed this, where the tone of the series was kept and didn't blow out in a massive battle. There has to be a season 2 so we can find out more about Xeno, fly traps, zombie Arthurs, and the butler who only has eyes for Marcy. I have to pay a special comment for the aesthetics of the prison cell benches as well. Good stuff. Totally agree. I think that's why. I mean, I've probably been saying, "Oh, it's a curveball," or it just felt different. Not even a curveball. It just felt different. And I think that's because, as you say, the tone of it is just very consistent with previous ones, where normally, yes, you would get that huge battle, and you got the sense of that with, for example, Yutani and her troops coming in at the end, with just seeing, the Xenomorph go out and pick off a few more of the Prodigy troops in the jungle, on a bridge, next to the Zen garden, all that kind of stuff. So, and definitely for me, the fly traps or the barnacle and the zombie Arthurs, definitely I want to know more about and see how this unfolds.
Absolutely. It's funny, isn't it? It was only when we were sitting down to podcast that I realised Atomites and Marcy Wendy didn't actually fight. It's just because he was in prep the whole time, taking off his jacket, getting ready for the fight. I thought the two of them were throwing loads throughout that episode. I thought there was a big, exciting action sequence that I had seen, and we didn't see it at all. She just stopped him dead there. Before he could even hit her with a frying pan, like everybody was hoping Aid Edmonds would do at some point through this season. Great stuff. Thanks, Dr. Bob, for your thoughts on the finale as well.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Bob.
Paul Tenchi Lee says, oh boy, good on Joe for kicking Boy K. I called it on Adam Ines being a synth back in my episode 2 comment, but I did get it wrong about Kirsch being a copy of Kavalier Sr. This does leave open the question of if Kirsch was another Boy K model, because if it is, what part of his design made Morrow say that he's an old model? Though I guess Morrow could mean that the hybrids are the new models. That's a really interesting point. Yeah,
I to be honest, I think I always took it from Morrow that he was having this dig, that in a sense the synths are obsolete, or potentially obsolete, but also at face value that you are an older model.
Yeah, that he may have seen someone that looked like Kirsch before he left Earth on his travels, so an old model. But yeah, he did say in that conversation later on, how does it feel like working for the company that's making you obsolete?
Yeah.
So yeah, he could have just been having a dig as well in that hilarious, very pointed argument before they get to their fight in this episode. Paul continues, while we haven't left Peter Pan behind, the overarching narrative has also definitely entered Pinocchio territory. I don't know about any of the lore from the various Alien comics, but as of Prometheus and Covenant, we are aware that the Xenomorphs incorporate the genetics of what whoever the facehugger impregnates, which makes Xenomorphs the ultimate hybridizer colonizer. Both the Xenomorphs at the end of the episode are hybrids with human tissue, the older one crossed with Joe's lung and the younger one with Arthur. It is unclear how those human genetics might alter the Xenomorphs, but Noah Hawley can certainly explore that idea in future season. Poor Arthur, who gets chest bursted and eye bursted. Also, does anyone besides Slightly, Smee, Morrow and Kirsch know that Arthur died? Adam Ince only knew that Arthur didn't get on the regular flight out, and it's unclear if Kirsch would have given an update to Boy K after they were both put into that cell. Finally, what a great season of television. Can't wait to find out when a season 2 might get going.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul.
Yeah,
It's such a good TV show. Yeah, I mean, poor Arthur indeed. But despite that, I think still him coming back as a zombied, eye-controlled meat bag, ultimately I was like, yay, he is kind of alive.
Sort of.
But at least the actor can come back.
Well, he's not being left as crab food, at least, or housing for crabs. Yeah.
I mean, I suspect that old Teoculus will drop him quite quickly if he gets the opportunity.
Yeah.
But you're right, you know, he has actually so far racked up more burstings from aliens than anyone could ever possibly imagine.
Yeah.
The only thing that needs to happen now is that the pod can whips him up into and Teoculus has to escape being sort of...
I was literally just thinking the same thing. I hope he doesn't walk back into the lab and the pod takes the body as Teoculus leaves it behind. Great stuff. Thanks so much, Paul, for your feedback.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks, Paul. I also do like the idea that Noah Hawley might explore the genetics and the hybridizer, the colonizer element of the Xenomorphs. It feels like Noah Hawley would kind of look at that.
Absolutely.
So it would be interesting to see. Yeah. I think that could also potentially come across from Elisha as well.
Good, absolutely. You know? Absolutely, yeah. I think there was actually something in Alien Resurrection as well, the swimming aliens that we had in there, the swimming xenomorphs that we had in there. That's because they were created from something that could swim. I think it was in there as well. So it has been involved in other movies, not just the ones that are not exactly connected to the Alien movies as well. So I think you can take inspiration and run with it.
Good stuff. Excellent. Thanks, Paul. And finally, John Daniel says, I adored the entire season. I was perpetually surprised by most of the big events and twists. Arthur becoming reanimated by the alien was absolutely not on my bingo card. I cannot wait for season 2. Likewise, John, really looking forward to the next season of this show.
Absolutely. It's just the more I think about it, even from Paul's message there and from John, like, you know, the one who gets it worst in the show is Arthur, and all he did was create the kids, give them a life, treat them like humans, and tell them that he loved them. And kept to his principles, I guess. Yeah, I guess another lesson for for people who stick to their principles. Oh, no. But hopefully... he will inherit the Earth in Teoculus form. Yeah, I think there'll be a ship that arrives back to Earth in 100 years' time after everybody gets out of their cryosleep and arrive back, and everybody on Earth will turn to look at the sky, and they'll all have aliens inside their eyeballs. The future. Excellent stuff. Thank you so much for joining us for our chats all about Alien Earth this season. It's been such a great show to cover, and always made better by your feedback and your thoughts throughout the season. You can keep getting in contact with us, of course, by emailing us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, and also subscribe to the podcast over on tvpodcastindustries.com because we are covering so much other stuff
We certainly are, yes. We are also chatting about the second series of The Boys Gen V.
Mm-hmm.
And we are back. Speaking of zombies, we are back with Marvel Zombies as well, just in time for the usual spooky season as well.
Absolutely. It's really good. We watched the 4 episodes already. We haven't podcasted on them yet, so we want to hear your thoughts about them. But the arc of the season is really good. I love that they've done a 4-episode arc there.
Yeah, definitely.
On Marvel Zombies, with some great appearances from Marvel characters that I wasn't expecting we'd see in any project.
No, exactly. And also we are closing out our Sandman as well. So lots on the table still for TV podcast industries. And we really hope that you can join us on these airwaves to listen to our dulcet tones.
Absolutely. And thanks so much once again for joining us for Alien Earth. Hopefully we'll be back with Alien Earth for season 2 when it eventually gets announced.
Yes, touch wood. Yes, thank you so much, fellow Lost Boys, fellow aliens, for joining us. Really been good to delve into this really exciting series of Alien Earth by Noah Hawley. Until next time, keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep screaming.
Bye.
Bye. I'm also talking about soft toys. I'll give a shout out as well to Eeyore Jones.
Yes.
I'll give a shout out to Eeyore as
Give a shite out. Maybe try that again. That's if the Teoculus gets inside a fish.